I don't believe that we should ever have a good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government.
Welcome back, everyone. We're Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the websites by plebs. Joining us today, return guest, CPO of the Luxor mining team. I'm talking about Guzman Pintos. He's joining us, but first we are diving into the numbers. Let's do it.
Number time! Brought to you by Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be the biggest, largest Bitcoin conference ever, hosted in sunny Miami Beach, April 6th and 9th. The event is coming up. Get your tickets quickly. Confirmed speakers: Naim Bukele, Michael Saylor, Saifuddin, Jack Mallers, Adam Back, Senator Lummis, Jordan Peterson. Be absolutely bonkers. There's DJs on the last day like Deadmau5. Get your tickets now, and you can take advantage of the link down below for 10% off tickets to Bitcoin 2022.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 726,616. The Bitcoin price, 41,955. Chain rewrite days, 732. Total public lightning capacity, 3,491.73 BTC. Moscow time, 2384. Blocks to the halving, 113,383. And the unspent capacity from the Samurai Whirlpool, which is a CoinJoiner collaborative spend service, 4,403.99 BTC. There's a little bit of a pickup in that since yesterday, like 15 more Bitcoin. Nico, the numbers.
The numbers, bro. Good numbers. I'm gonna keep saying that. You know, the samurai capacity. It's gonna be. You know, we got to show it until Let's Go Brandon. You know. But anyways, the executive order wasn't as bad as we thought. We're gonna get to that in the news. We're gonna go over it. But before we do that, Phil, I wanted to cover a concept that I think we've hammered home many times on this show, but so many things have happened that I want to hammer it home again. So let me pull up this video by Boris Johnson. He is the Prime Minister of the UK. Let's check out the video, shall we? And shout out to Bernie's tweets.
Though today he said all that would change thanks to a new law being rushed through Parliament.
We are making sure that we have new powers to distrain, to take people's assets,
So, again, this is absolutely bonkers, and let me give you guys some refresher. Right, it's not only in Russia. Right, Russia is now telling people in Russia that you can't sell foreign currency, you can't, suspend foreign, you can't buy foreign currency. Why do they not want people buying their foreign currency? Because it would devalue and inflate the ruble even more. So they don't want people getting an escape valve in foreign currency. They did this in Venezuela too with capital controls. I know they do this in Argentina, right? But it's, and then, dude, but it's like, it's crazy because they're not even giving these people a chance, right? Major fund managers have frozen at least $3 billion in accounts, in assets exposed to Russia as Ukraine war wreaks havoc on markets. What they don't say is that they also froze accounts in the Ukraine. So you can't use your regular bank account in the Ukraine either. And let me read some of this article. Some of the world's biggest asset managers have frozen withdrawals from the Russian-focused funds after the country's attack on Ukraine. Big fund managers, including JP Morgan, Omni, BNP Paribas, have frozen Russian-linked accounts worth at least $3 billion. But it's not only that. We also know Western country. We have, this is just a reminder, the Canadian protesters, truckers seized bank accounts frozen over connection to Freedom Convoy, just by the mere fact of them protesting. So let me go through the list real quick. If you're a Russian citizen, you can't find salvation. You're forced to stick it through in this hyperinflating currency. If you're in the Ukraine, your bank account doesn't work, which means you can't flee. But we've also heard stories that some people are using Bitcoin because that's the only thing that keeps working. of all these Western countries seizing Russian assets all over the world, dude. And then, of course, you have Canada, right? Canada people, because they went to a peaceful protest against, mandates of the thing that cannot be named, their accounts are frozen. Why am I going all through this? Just to remind you that if your money is in the bank, if you're using the state's money, it does not belong to you. The politicians see it as theirs, and they will use it as they see fit. If you went to the wrong protest, if you happen to be in a country that was invaded, if you happen to be from the country that was doing the invading, but you had no idea because that's your government's decision, if you happen to be in the wrong country, you're starting to see a pattern here. It's obvious. If your money is in a bank account, as much as they would like you to believe it's your money, it is not your money. It's in a multi-sig, actually. Two of the keys, it's a 2 of 3 multi-sig, 2 of the keys, one of the keys is held by the state, one of the keys is held by the bank, and you own one key. So you still need permission from these other keys just to access your money. If you self-custody Bitcoin, which is what we've been talking about for so long on this show, and you are the sole possessor of those keys, that is your money. And no matter what politician says that you are not right or your country's at war and whatever, you could take your money with you and no one's going to confiscate it from you, especially if you store those keys correctly. Clown world, dude. Clown world. But you know what? Amazing advertisement for Bitcoin. I hope these people keep freezing accounts. They keep doing all this shit because it just highlights the importance of an apolitical money, a money that cannot be censored, a money that cannot be confiscated. Clown world is doing all the advertisement for Bitcoin. And you know what? They keep cracking down. They keep doing this. The honey badger doesn't care. It doesn't matter whether you're in Afghanistan. It doesn't matter whether you're in the Ukraine. It doesn't matter whether you're in Venezuela. It does not matter. You could still transact in Bitcoin. So governments, bureaucrats, keep doing your thing because you're helping our cause. Phil?
Yeah, I was actually, as you were finishing up, that was exactly my point, was that we are witnessing the greatest advertising campaign for separating money from state. I mean, all they're doing is showing, essentially, what they're showing is how weak they are, right? How weak the state really is. And at the end of the day, right, it's not about having a proper medium of exchange and a proper store of value. Like, store of value was never part of it, right? This is why we've all been brainwashed with the devaluing money. So this was never going to be a part of it. And we can really see now the cards are being laid out, and they know that they're in trouble, right? The state knows that it's in trouble. They know that. That's why they're doing the censorship. More and more people are waking up to the fact, like you said, the money isn't ours, right? Every time we go do a transaction, we're essentially asking for permission. That's what happens every time you go use your credit card. And sadly, that's actually even what's happening when you use your debit card, and that's money in your bank account. Supposedly, right? But that's also that's also kind of the mind fuck, is that money isn't even really there, right? When we go deposit it into the bank account, like that's not even really ours anymore. Yes, it is with a bunch of strings attached, but at the end of the day, we have to, like I said, go and ask for permission. So you know what? Hey, thank you for doing all of this, because we really probably couldn't afford to dish out all this cash for all this advertisement. So, hats off to the governments. They're doing a great job.
And make no mistake, before I pass it on to Guzman, these are the same psychopaths that want central bank digital currencies. The same ones. The same ones. Hey, we don't like that you you drove too much today. Your money. Oh, you have to pay a 15% premium now for gas, right? Because you drove a little bit too far. You went to the wrong protest with the non-government approved protests. Let's cut off your money. These are the same people that want that trust. which is why you have Jerome Powell and saying it in meetings, oh, these, cryptocurrencies, they're for speculation. Even though we showed you the receipts, the US dollar has lost 99.15% towards Bitcoin. The US dollar is speculation if you're holding it versus Bitcoin. These people are nuts, guys, and this is going to continue to heat up. They're going to freeze more accounts. So the question that I have to you is, why do you have your money in the state's money? It's their money. It's not really yours. Only Bitcoin could be really yours. Guzman, what are your thoughts on all this?
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with you all, and I would say I would take it a step further. Bitcoin is not only the unconfiscable money. I would say it's the only unconfiscable asset that exists. And this is something that we've seen with kind of essentially sanctions against Russia. Last week, meme was not your port, not your yacht, because they are essentially seizing all of these Russian oligarchs' yachts as well, right? So now, what will happen next? What happens if next year I go to a protest against the Canadian government? Would my bank account will be seized? But what of my house? Could they also take that? I mean, it could happen, right? So I think Bitcoin, at the end of the day, it's not only digital money, this new monetary system that we're working, but it's also this unconfiscable digital asset, and the only asset that you can take custody on, and nobody can ever essentially take from you, as long as you have those 12 or 24 words memorized in your brain or written somewhere that no one else can access. You're pretty much set, and nobody can take that away from you. So that essentially gets me to think what's been happening over the last few months and weeks. Should we be even advising people to get assets, get houses? Should you be leasing instead or stuff like that? Because at the end of the day, if you don't actually own property, or the government just by a unilateral decision can take that away from you, should you be buying land at the end of the day, or cars, property, yachts, whatever the case may be? So I would even take it a little bit further and say Bitcoin is the only unconfiscable asset, and the only thing that will essentially ensure your freedom moving forward.
Absolutely, I completely agree, because all of those things, right, yeah, you own them on paper, but we see how much that goes. If the government sees you went to a wrong protest, you run to a wrong whatever, they just take it. They just take it. And exactly right. I think the Russian billionaire's yachts just being towed. To think about how crazy that is. It was that Russian billionaire telling Putin, let's go invade Russia. No. And then all of a sudden, his $10-20 million yacht just disappears. And again, we're not advocating for the war, and it's absolutely terrible that Russia invaded Ukraine. But what we're really trying to get into your guys' heads is, why the Russian people paying for something that the Russian government has done? That's the equivalent of the United States. If you live in the U.S., if we as citizens started to pay for when the United States government, on false accusations, I might add, invaded Iraq. There was no weapons of mass destruction, but we still invaded there. So imagine if all our accounts got seized, frozen. It's bonkers. So to add to what Alejandro was saying, it's dude, if you own Bitcoin, if you don't own Bitcoin, anything else, is it really yours? Is it really yours? No. It depends if you're in good standing with your government or not. With Bitcoin, it doesn't matter whether you're in good standing with your government or not. That's the power of Bitcoin. And that fact that you could memorize 12 words, 24 words, and you could store billions, if not trillions of dollars in your mind is going to change the world. That is extremely powerful. And that's why the establishment absolutely hates Bitcoin. Phil?
Yeah, you just illustrated the perfect rules for thee, rules for thee, but not for me point, right? Because look, the U.S. went and invaded Iraq, and there were no weapons of mass destruction, and all of our accounts kept on working, right? So that is the a perfect example of that. It's awful. It really is.
It's hypocrisy at its finest. But anyways, Phil, It's time for
The Daily Fail. Brought to you by Amber App. Check them out, amber.app. Low fees, fair spreads, smart automation, the best way to stack Bitcoin and app by actual Bitcoiners. The link is down below.
Amber, the smart way to stack sats.
This is a tweet from Bitcoin Gandalf, and he was covering an interesting point made by, I think it was Elon's brother, Kimball Musk. Okay, so let's dive into this really quick. In an interview with TechCrunch on stage at the Ethereum Denver conference, Tesla board member Kimball Musk, brother of CEO Elon Musk, said that the company had been very ignorant of the environmental impact of Bitcoin when it announced last year that it would purchase $1.5 billion worth of the cryptocurrency and would plan to allow owners to purchase the company's vehicles with the currency. When we invested in Bitcoin, we were very, very ignorant. We had no idea of the environmental impact. We literally didn't know. We were like, this seems like a good store of value and a good way to diversify assets. And of course, it didn't take very long to get a million, I'm not kidding, probably a million messages telling us what we were doing to the environment, said Kimball Musk in an interview with this reporter. And of course, our company is about creating alternative energy futures, so we really were not informed enough when we made that decision. Kimball Musk says that while Tesla didn't necessarily regret its Bitcoin purchase, he hopes that the broader blockchain industry can move to more environmentally friendly infrastructure, noting that his own philanthropic organization, this is the kicker, guys, Big Green, had embraced a crypto-native DAO governance structure, operating on a less energy-intensive blockchain. You mean something that's centrally controlled, right? Something that's centrally controlled by you. Oh yeah, that's right. His own philanthropic organization.
But hey, it's
right.
green, and that's what's important.
It's green, exactly, Nico. And I mean, this is just absolute nonsense. It's completely ridiculous. Of course, he's at an Ethereum, an Ethereum conference, so he's going to tout that nonsense. But look, I just, for me, it was really this absolute nonsense about the ending piece where he shills a DAO. Like, are you serious, man? Like, this is how stupid, this is really how stupid they think everyone is. So they didn't take the time to understand why proof of work was important. They didn't take the time to understand the stranded energy, proposition from Bitcoin. They didn't take the time to understand any of this. But what they did figure out is, hey, we can do something on a shitcoin that we can control, and we are the kings of this castle. And as we've seen with Elon, he is a complete egomaniac, and it's always about the Elon show. So, you know what? This doesn't really surprise me, even though, don't get me wrong, these comments are by his brother, but it makes no difference, right? They're going to tout the same line. Remember, none of us are better than our incentives. Before I go to the next one, any thoughts on this?
I think you really, look, as much as I like Elon Musk as an entrepreneur, I think he definitely is an egomaniac. I think he's upset because PayPal originally set out to do what Bitcoin is doing today, but then it eventually got captured by regulators because it was centralized, just like shitcoins will inevitably get captured because they can't. Right. And I think the fact that, he wasn't the one, or he wasn't, first to the pack, and he got in, I wouldn't say late, but he wasn't in the pioneer phase, whereas in everyone, I think that adopted Bitcoin before 2017, you were in the pioneer, we're in the early adopter phase, and perhaps, that made him a little bit butthurt. Right. But, dude, look, at the end of the day, he did put Bitcoin on Tesla's balance sheet. I feel like that's the most famous public company that did that. But, I think it's a shame that he just turned around and then he just started focusing on Doge. There's two things that could be happening here. Perhaps it's the egomania side. He's like, oh, PayPal, I should have done this with PayPal. And then the other component could be that he's just paying his dues, bro, because and the reality is, bro, like, you get into Bitcoin it takes you a couple years for you to fully appreciate what makes Bitcoin different versus these shitcoins where you're like, oh, it's faster, it's this, but most people pay attention to the tech narrative rather than the importance of decentralization. So I don't know. I think it could be both things. But Guzman, what do you think of this?
No, I agree with you all. And I think, to be fair, I think like Musk is changing that like initial narrative a little bit. Like, for example, a couple of days ago when this like oil crisis started to spike after the Russian-Ukraine war, he was like tweeting about like how the US should start like pretty much like drilling every single like oil well that you have and just like pumping our like nat gas production and whatnot. So I think it's starting to get to that point where you start like making that click, like why energy is really important. I think he's still not at the inflection point, but he would get there. Also, like I think yesterday, a couple of days ago, he was like memeing about like Satoshi Nakamoto as well. Yeah. So I think like Bitcoin still is very much in his mind, like thinking about it all the time. I mean, I agree with you all that he did like a terrible move in like saying, hey, we are not going to support Bitcoin payments anymore, or like this bullshit about like Bitcoin consumes like this much energy. And I think we touched this also in the previous episode where like energy consumption is not bad. It's completely the opposite. If you see like a correlation between like human flourishment, like GDP growth and energy, it's like literally like 1-to-1. Energy goes up, everyone else does better. So like addressing the like energy fund is extremely important. And then also what like Bitcoin does, and like going to your point, Phil, is that it provides a baseload for cities to be able to operate under like any condition. And here like an example is, let's say, I don't know, just to use an example, like if you say Houston, let's say that every day they require like 50 megawatts of power, but whenever it's really cold, for whatever reason, like once or twice a year, they need 100 megawatts. Nobody's going to build infrastructure to support those spikes in energy consumption because it's just not profitable to do so. What you could do is have like Bitcoin miners that are like filling that 50 megawatt essentially buffer that are operating 364 days a year. And whenever you need the power, miners turn off in like 10 seconds because you can like literally curtail hundreds of megawatts of miners in seconds and make all of that power available to the cities and the communities pretty much instantly. And this is something that we saw in Texas this year compared to previous year, where previous year we had like outages, was way too cold. Essentially, the grid wasn't able to sustain this load. Bitcoin miners have been increasing their capacity a lot over the last like 12 months. I would say like exponentially. And this year they were able to curtail the load, and people were able to keep their lights on, keep their house warm. And that was all thanks to Bitcoin miners, because we're investing so much money into infrastructure, into like new power sources. So yeah, kind of to wrap up there, I think Elon is starting to make, or will be soon, that kind of like fully understand like energy part of Bitcoin energy consumption. So let's see where it goes. But yeah,
absolutely, and it's actually interesting that you say that. Right. And it is exactly, you know, there were so much propaganda pieces that were trying to attack it. Bitcoin actually makes, not only does Bitcoin make green energy profitable without relying on government subsidies, or potentially profitable, as was the case with Texas. And I'll pop you guys a couple article headlines where it they were talking a big game, but when it actually happened, when Texas endured a winter storm, one of the first things that the Bitcoin miners did was shut off. They actually shut off, But, when there's going to be points in the grid where there's an overproduction, those Bitcoin miners are always going to be the buyers of last resort. So yeah, man, very, very interesting stuff. Thanks, Guzman. When you always have miners on the show, bro, they're always on point with the energy stuff. But anyways, Phil, what's the next Phil?
All right. We're going to dive into this one. We were tagged by quite a few plebs on this. Just happened. The crypto scam. SEC slaps siblings with $124 million snake oil fraud charge. Ooh, sounds spicy. Here we go. Cryptocurrency entrepreneur and his sister have been charged by U.S. officials with crypto scam on a Wednesday, accusing them of defrauding retail investors of millions of dollars using a bogus shitcoin. The SEC alleges that John and Tina duped thousands of retail investors of more than $124 million through two unregistered securities offerings featuring the fake coin. Additionally, the couple is charged with running Ormeus Global, a multi-level marketing program from June 2017 to April 2018 that offered subscription packages that included Ormeus, which is the shitcoin. So they were misled about the value and profitability of Ormeus' coin's mining assets, stating that the coin was backed by $250 million crypto mining operation that earned more than $5 million in monthly revenue. However, mining was suspended in 2019. Much to the chagrin of investors, I'm going to suggest here that mining never even occurred. Not even once, not even for a second, but I digress. Much to the chagrin of investors who had already invested in the coin, the couple allegedly developed phony wallets in order to conceal the fact that Ormeus was not being mined. Now look, normally I take you guys on this painful journey looking through, how this thing works, right? But I figured we take a little bit of a different angle, okay? Went to their website, the Ormeus Coin website, and let's take a look at how quickly we can figure out how this is a scam, right? Let's start off with that because, right, this is a token, right, that people are buying. So think about that. These people are pretending to be money. So if you're pretending to be money, like, how are you pretending to be money? Let's take a look at this. So first, I love it when they put little quotes, right at the beginning. I do that kind of stuff too when I want to seem a lot smarter than I am. Put in a nice quote from somebody else. Out of many, one makes gold. That's right. Out of all the suckers, these two people were trying to spin gold. That, to me, that's what I understood by this. But anyways, let's dive into how this works, right? This is red flags. Here we go. Ormeus Coin is a new digital money system backed by a fully audited industrial crypto mining operation. Revenue from the mining farm is cryptographically tied to the Ormeus Reserve Vault through proof of asset technology and self-executing Ethereum blockchain smart contracts. In other words, a token shitcoin. Powered by green energy, Ormeus Coin is currently in possession of Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Dash mining rings. Why the fuck am I going to buy this token if all they're doing is mining other tokens to back this token? So to me, this is another red flag, right? Why you should not buy into a shitcoin like this. All right, let's continue down. Look at this. This is just interesting and weird, right? Like Nico will definitely appreciate the fact that they put an S9 over here, or one of, I don't.
That looks like an S9.
It does, right?
What is that? An S9, right?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like one.
Right?
Yeah, for
It looks
sure.
like one.
Yeah.
So there you go. So you're thinking, people are thinking mining, right? These guys know what they're talking about. They just put a miner on the page. These guys mean business. So here we go. Check this out. Pursuant to purchase contracts signed in November 2017, industrial cryptocurrency mining operations have commenced at a state-of-the-art facilities in North America. I'm sorry, that just sounds like copy-paste. I don't even know what to say. And doesn't it seem like a really old headline? Don't you think you'd have something more recent? Because think about it, right? In the article that I read to you guys, they had stopped mining, which means their website should indicate that they're no longer doing this. But yet, this is the last piece of information on it. So again, more red flags why you should not touch this shitcoin. You know what? To me, the majority of the work went into the marketing and the website, but in the website, specifically the roadmap. Check this out. So here we go. The first thing they did in 2017 was build their shitcoin and name it, right? So boom, $25, my shitcoin. Here we go. Next. So think about this, right? They minted a shitcoin and then they assembled a core team and designed the Ormeus brand. So there was never a dev. There were no devs, okay? All there was minted shitcoin and marketing and branding. And then this is the best, right? This is how, because look at the timeline, right? 2017. Think of the narratives. Proof of work, people were talking about, Ethereum and all that stuff. So proof of, pretending the proof of stake is going to happen one day. And what do? They deploy baseline mining infrastructure. So back then, the narrative worked great to get people in thinking, hey, this is going to be like Bitcoin, right? But then after that, it shifts. And all of a sudden in 2019, altcoin smart contract but it was already an ERC token. So they already weren't mining. Anyways, look, anybody that's paying attention can see that this doesn't make any sense at all. And then they relocated their mining equipment to a new partner facility. But they started off by minting a shitcoin. And you'll notice that they never discuss creating a client, creating anything, okay? All it is we made the shitcoin and marketing. And now all of a sudden we fast forward to 2020, right? Look, we were already doing the daily fails in 2020. What were we starting to talk about? Deo. Here you go, 2020. Executed contract for Deo governance model. Now we're pivoting again to get more shitcoiners in. Now all of a sudden, they're staking. But pay attention, in Q2 of 2020, they relocated their mining to a new facility. So are you staking? You proof of work? Are you proof of stake? Do you know what you're doing? They have no clue. And then, right, they finished it off with DeFi, because that was the last narrative that was going. So look, I just had to take that thing apart by looking through that website. That is a horribly made site. It has all kinds of red flags to tell you that this is complete dog shit. So anyways, at least they got busted. And yeah, don't fall for this crap.
Dude, I still don't know what mining having ASICs has to do with that coin, but I feel like I feel like this reminds me of like a 2017 ICO project. That's the vibes that it gives me. But dude, listen, it's the branding, it's the marketing, it's the pizzazz. It's meant to it's meant to make you think that they have all these associations, therefore you're going to benefit. They own miners, so you're going to benefit. But in reality, are you getting some of that mined Bitcoin that they're mining, or some of those mined shitcoins? No. Right? All you're getting is this shitcoin that could literally be created with $25. Exactly what you said, Phil. It's super easy to just mint your own ECR20 token. Yeah, man, it's just another shitcoin with crazy marketing, and this is exactly why we dedicate a portion of this show to just exposing these fucking shitcoins, right? And so you could, so we could at least, hopefully some of you listen and just stick to Bitcoin, because remember, all of these shitcoins are created for one reason: to redistribute wealth from the bag holders, from the buyers of those shitcoins, back to the devs, because they definitely like Bitcoin. Anyways, Guzman, what are your thoughts on this? Since you're a miner, bro, what did you think of that S9?
No, I mean, it was super funny when they had this AI algorithm that was like profit switching between all of these coins. And like you cannot like mine Dash or Litecoin with an S9. If a miner mines Bitcoin, can only mine Bitcoin. So that was like fun in itself. And it was also like AI, right? So they're super intelligent about like which coin to essentially profit switch, like super advanced. But I mean, I don't have anything else to add, to be honest, to what you all just said. I mean, to me, it seems that someone literally spent like 30 minutes going to Google, finding the top like 20 buzzwords, and then just like dumping them all into like a website. I mean, what should I have here? Like AI for sure, mining, taking fancy. Let's just a pure tool, and then let's just add a little bit of DeFi on top, just to like wrap it up.
Yeah, dude, the sad part is that they all do that, right? It's just that they try to spin you with these buds. Ethereum does this. XRP does this, right? They try to spin you with this over complexity of like, all this is whatever. At the end of the day, it's a shitcoin. That's what it is, right?
That's all it is.
It's literally 100%. What it is.
And what's really scary, I was on the team page, and the team page, the only person there I think that's real is the guy that they caught for, right, John, right? Because there's John and Tina, they're a brother and sister team. You look at the team page, and none of these people seem real to me. Like, they mentioned that they have devs. Like, there's not a chance that you have a dev. Not a chance.
I'm sure they went to like Upwork and they hired someone in Pakistan to put the website together. Come on, bro.
Okay.
Anyways, Phil, the shitcoin slayer, slaying another shitcoin. But anyways, Phil, it's time for the Daily Meme Review. Brought to you by Citadel 21. It's the best Bitcoin cultural zine. It's stories, articles, comics by Toxic Savage Bitcoiners. Every volume has different artwork. This is volume 10. It just came out. Of course, all the art is by Bitcoiners, of course. They're scarce. There's only 1,000 copies made per volume. Get your print before they run out of Citadel 21 today. All right, everybody, meme review. You guys know the drill, the meme review. We're going to go through awesome Bitcoin memes, and then we're going to give it a score. 'cause that's what we do on the Bitcoin meme review. Anyways, check out the first meme by Pubby, also known as Pub Lord Hodl. So where does this all end exactly? I poured out all the vodka, stopped trying to cancel Russia. I even threw away my chessboard. Chess was invented in India. Yeah, but the Russians are good at it. Man, what's that show, dude? It's like, oh man, it's from that show, dude.
What? You talking about the template?
Yeah, the template. It's from that show, super famous show.
Yeah, they're like the biker family there that soups up all the bikes.
Is it the biker family? Isn't it the pawn shop people?
No. The Pawn Stars. Those are different dudes.
Okay, never mind. Okay, next one is brought to us by Eves, also known as Locke. He came up with the famous Bitcoin honey badger.
That's right. Mine's packed.
Designed this, and then of course, because it's open source, because it is Bitcoin, everyone decided to do their own thing. Anyways, let's check this out. Inflation. What inflation? A pack of ground beef is the same price as last month. I feel like this is what you're hearing from governments, right? And this is hidden inflation, right? Where, in video games, for example, they do the same thing. They keep the same price of the video games, but over time, you see that video games are getting less and less content in them. So it's like people either have to, like companies have to do one of two things. They raise the prices, or they keep the prices the same, but there's actual less quality and less quantity in that package so that they could keep the prices the same. Also known as shrinkflation. This is absolutely hilarious. Anyways, maybe this guy's just a giant. You never know. Anyways, here is a meme by RD BTC. I can't play the music, but anyways, let's check it out. We'll talk over it, of course. Is the music playing for you guys?
Yeah, it did. It just played. But now it's off.
Okay, hold on. There we go. Does the mainstream media and the FUD and the Bitcoin guys going up to bat? Oh, man. I think the little brother thought he was just going to hit the thing over his head. He just went from the top. Yeah, it's true. Bitcoin is the slayer of legacy media. Kids in 2050 try to study the 2019-2020 chapter of history for a test. There's actually a really famous saying, which is nothing happens in decades, and then there's years that the decades happen. Last 2 years, I think, were some of those years. Anyways, moving on. Awesome meme by Lena Sheesh. My asset is scarce, and it's a little dude holding a gold bar. My asset is scarce too. And this is the famous golden asteroid that has like 10 quadrillion worth of gold and precious metals. And then there's some aliens. Look, they think their shiny rocks are special, can't busy, and it's the alien buying Bitcoin. Incredible meme by Lena Sheesh. Anyways, next one brought to us by Full Metal Hodl. The central bank must be trusted not to debase the currency, but the history of fiat currencies is full of breaches of that trust. And I took that personally. This is famous from the Michael Jordan documentary, right? Where, he says I took that personally, but they put a Satoshi tweet. Absolutely very good memes, Phil. I'm impressed. Phil is most likely going to pick the memes from now on. I'm going to continue. I'm going to stay with the number segment, because it looks like he does a much better job than I do. That being said,
that's not true.
It is true, Phil. You're too nice. Stop being Canadian. And for those memes, I'm going to give it my unconfiscatable poker tournament. I got in the final table, and this medal, it says the final table medal from the unconfiscatable poker tournament. Phil, what would you give those memes?
Love it! You know what? I'm going to take a page out of the Book of Nico. I have a case. Okay, it's not a box. And in this case, there is brand new cable tie.
Oh, okay. Brand new cable tie. It's a virgin cable tie. Hasn't been used.
Has not been used. Completely straight still.
Anyways, Guzman, what would you give those memes?
But like a golf club to give it to.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we've never had a golf club.
Never had a golf club.
That's a new one.
Those are
It's a putter. It's a putter.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a putter.
Those are good. Those are good scores for those awesome memes. For anyone who's new to the channel, don't understand how this works, we review the memes, but the scoring system is a meme. Boom! And of course, make sure to join our Telegram group. Link us some dank Bitcoin memes to review so we can show them on the meme review. And of course, subscribe to us on alternative video platforms because we do talk shit about the central bankers and all these bureaucrats, etc., like rumble.com and our personal favorite, bitcointv.com. Phil, it's time for the Daily News. Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. They make the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, like the famous 3D printed Bitcoin art sculpture grenade. Opens up, you put your favorite hardware wallet in there, really cool stuff. Or the famous 3D printed Bitcoin honey badger. Also opens up, you put whatever you want in there, and you can take advantage of the link down below. 5% off anything on the store, CryptoCloaks.com. Guys, it's pretty dope. The fact that we reported on, the Elizabeth Warren stuff yesterday and we beat Tucker Carlson to the punch. Tucker Carlson is the second most watched show behind Joe Rogan, 3.5 million average users. And it looks like he agrees with what we were saying. These politicians are going anything and they're going after anything and everything that they can't control. And one of those things that's like like a little rock stuck in your shoe that they can't get rid of is Bitcoin. But anyways, let's hear what Tucker has to say.
Warren knows that if we're going to preserve democracy in America, if we're going to fight Russia, then Elizabeth Warren is going to need fingertip control of your family's finances now and always. And by the way, don't try to hide anything from Elizabeth Warren, say in cryptocurrency, because if you do, Elizabeth Warren will know you are working for Vladimir Putin.
As I mentioned earlier, we're going after two things, trying to squeeze the Russian economy and also trying to squeeze those oligarchs, right? The problem is we're doing that only through the formal banking system. And we're doing a good job on that, and that is very effective. It's historic. I'm 100% behind it. But there's a hole in the dike here, and the hole is crypto. In other words, you got to pick it. Crypto, if you want to continue to trade and provide the trading platforms and so on in the wallets, you can do business in Russia or you can do business in the United States, but you can't do business in both.
Did you hear one thing that I want you guys to focus on? One thing that I want you guys to focus on. She said wallets. She said wallets.
Yeah.
And we went over the bill that she has proposed. Do you see where this is going?
Yep.
I've been telling you guys they're trying to morph the Bitcoin into the legacy financial system. And if you don't have an approved wallet because you're trying to feed your family, God forbid, because of something that your government did, Elizabeth Warren doesn't want that. These people are nut jobs. And I'm telling you, it's going to escalate. They're going to go after self-custody. They're going to go after these exchanges, right? Take self-custody now before the hammer, if it falls, before the hammer falls. Phil?
I just wanted to say, Russia's not even using cryptocurrency. Like, this is the most ridiculous nonsense shit I've seen.
Phil, it's not about that. It's the fact.
I know it's not. I know it's not.
She said it. It's the fact that she can't control it.
That's right.
It's the fact that she can't control it. She can't have that. It's like she has a short circuit. She's like, what? What do you mean we can't, manipulate people through their money? What is this? It's sickening, dude.
Sorry, the other piece to it, though, is that she's right away equating cryptocurrency use with support for Russia.
Dude.
So somehow we all just we all just picked a side because we want to use freedom money that isn't controlled by any state.
We called this before it went on Tucker. I was kind of pissed off. I was like, I wish I had this Tucker clip before I showed the show. Anyways, because we pre-record the show, guys, and we show it after. But anyways, so what are the unintended consequences of this? And before I get your thoughts, Gooseman, listen. You when you disconnect people, you give them no other option but to find an alternative. And that's exactly what Russia is doing. And it's going to lead to some unintended consequences that these American politicians and the European politicians haven't really thought through. So Russian banks rushed to switch to Chinese card system, right? Because they got kicked off Visa and they got kicked off MasterCard. I don't know what any of the Russian citizens have to do with this, but apparently they're othered because of something their government did. This would be the equivalent of when we invaded Iraq. All of a sudden, your Visa and your MasterCard stopped working. It's absurd for something that our government did and they lied to the people about. Anyways, moving on. What Russia could work around the SWIFT ban with high costs, and the alternative from the SWIFT bank is called China's CIPS system. So, an unintended consequence of cutting off Russia from a MasterCard and Visa is that they're using a Chinese equivalent of MasterCard and Visa. I think it's called Union Pay or something. And now they're using, they potentially are going to use a Chinese system alternative of SWIFT, right? So what are the consequences of this? And this is from Credit Suisse, which is a very highly respectable institution. Credit Suisse strategist says we're witnessing the birth of a world monetary order. Goes on to say former Federal Reserve, so obviously this person knows what he's talking about, former Federal Reserve and U.S. Treasury Department official, and now Credit Suisse short-term rate strategist Zoltan Pozar has written the U.S. is in a commodity crisis that has given rise to a new monetary world order that will ultimately weaken the current dollar-based system and lead to higher inflation in the West. This is an unintended consequence of weaponizing money. When you weaponize money, you force other countries that are the victims of that weaponization to find an alternative. The crisis is not like anything we have seen since Nixon took the U.S. dollar off the gold standard. Negotiated by 44 countries as World War II was winding down, the Bretton Woods Agreement pegged gold as the basis for the U.S. dollar and other currencies, then pegged to the greenback. This structure began to fray in the 1960s as U.S. trade deficits become too large to ignore, and it fell apart completely. We've talked about this day a lot. 1971, when the U.S. abandoned the link between the dollar and gold. As the initial Bretton Woods era was backed by gold, Bretton Woods II was backed by insider money, essentially U.S. government paper, says Pozar. Bretton Woods III will be backed by outside money, gold and other commodities. Bitcoin right now is seen as a commodity. Anyways. Pozar marks the end of the current monetary regime as the day the G7 nations seized Russian foreign exchange reserves following the latter's invasion of Ukraine. What had previously been thought as a risk-free became risk-free no more, as non-extent credit risk was instantly substituted for very real confiscation risks. What occurred surely isn't lost on China. Pozar sees the People's Bank of China faced with two alternatives to protect its interests. Either sell treasury bonds, which is going to hurt the United States and Europe, to buy Russian commodities, or do its own quantitative easing, also known as printing money, the renminbi, to buy Russian commodities. Pozar expects both scenarios mean higher yields and higher inflation in the West. Now check out this last passage. Pozar concluded his note with a comment about Bitcoin. He expects it to benefit, but only if it survives. And again, this isn't only Pozar saying that. Hear it from Jerome Powell himself. The writing is on the wall.
Any short-term effect of that over time, though, it would. I suppose it would diminish our status as the reserve currency. It's also possible to have more than one large reserve currency, and there have been times when that was the case, and so it's not really clear.
That is a nuclear bomb. You have the head of the Federal Reserve essentially saying that the U.S. can potentially lose its role as the global reserve currency. If that happens, the U.S. is in trouble. The U.S. is going to hurt. How do you protect yourself from all of this madness? You buy yourself the best insurance money on the face of the planet, and that is Bitcoin. So yeah, dude, again, you weaponize the money, people are going to be forced to find an alternative. So I think all these, politicians that feel like they're superior and feel that they can control the politics of another nation by essentially cutting them off the financial system. I think them by doing this, they think that's what was going to happen, but in the process, they shot themselves in the foot. There's unintended consequences from all this, and the winner is Bitcoin, baby. Phil?
They just create this us and them scenario. And if you look at the way that things are lining up, like, I mean, really, Russia lining up with China? I mean, are we really just going to set this stage for World War III like this? Because, I mean, look, to me anyways, I just don't see this going over very easily. I all of a sudden start to see other countries deciding to start picking sides, and we all know where this behavior leads, right? We're seeing the tensions that are happening right now. We're seeing, as you pointed out, the weaponizing of the dollar, which is horrible, right? It seems okay on the near term. It seems perfectly fine in the short term for your short-term incentives and short-term gains. But see, all those people that made those terrible decisions in the 70s, most of those people are dead, okay, or dying. So they don't really care. And now we're all stuck dealing with these ridiculous consequences of money that's going bad and disappearing. Jerome Powell said it himself. All of a sudden, he's like, well, you know, we could see it where there'd be two reserve currencies. Really? Like, you can see that now all of a sudden, and now that the writing's on the wall, you know, because as if they didn't freaking know that they were doing this already back in 2008 when that, you know what I mean, when we got the chancellor on the brink of the second bailout, right? And we had the mortgage crisis. They already, the writing was on the wall back in 1971. This is hypocritical, psychotic nonsense. And look, you know what? I love that we have Bitcoin. I was super worried before we had Bitcoin because I was going to be stuck hoarding crap like gold. So yeah, go Bitcoin.
Go Bitcoin. Guzman, what are your thoughts on all this, bro?
I mean, I'm not sure what their intention was. Like I'm not sure. Like, they pretended to essentially like put Russia with 100 million people in a bubble and like not having like trade or interact with like any other country. That's like literally impossible to do. Like, you cannot like put in a bubble like 150 million people, which is literally the population of Russia, right? So essentially what they end up doing is like superpowering or like fueling this China and Russia relationship, right? So now you're essentially generating this like huge power that is ideologically on the other side of the West, right? So you're like doing this like east to west kind of deal going on. And then you're also like affecting people that have nothing to do here, because people doesn't always, or in most cases, equal government, right? Citizens and government, especially like a dictatorship like you have in Russia, where you have this guy that has been in power for like so many years now. It's not the same, right? So I understand that you like are against whatever he's doing, but like just our Russian citizen has nothing to do, and like yeah, I don't like how they've been approaching kind of this conflict. In like just getting with the plebs, which have nothing to do, which like very high level where this conflict is going.
I think you make a very good point about the power vacuum, okay? Like that is, as you were explaining that is exactly what's happening, right? We're seeing a power vacuum occur, and when this happens, somebody is going to fill that void, right? So, and you've got Russia going to China and now using Union Pay. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I don't really think that's the direction that we really wanted things to go in. But again, we are not the elites, right? We're not the elites. Maybe the elites want this to go in this direction so that they can consolidate more power. Who knows?
I disagree, Phil. I think that this is them thinking that they're doing what's best. Just like, for example, the reason I'm making this theory is because look at what they did during the last years as a reaction to the virus. These are people that think they know what's best in their ivory towers. And they don't think about the unintended consequences. They don't think it that through. They think they're all powerful, right? They have so much bravado, right? So much arrogance, right? Like as you saw with the Great Reset, and say that was a catastrophe. It didn't work, you know?
It didn't work.
Like all central plans, right? It doesn't plan for all the unintended consequences of those things. So I wouldn't even give them that much credit. I think these are people that are drunk on power. right, that are thinking like, oh, we're just going to cut them off, and that's going to, facilitate a regime change in Russia because people are going to pissed off, but they're shooting themselves in the foot in the process.
Yeah,
because
man.
again, remember, the United States has had US dollar hegemony for decades, really since the 90s. The United States has been the only superpower since the fall of the Soviet Union. So these people believe that they still have that type of power where it's like, you do this, you're fucked. But they're not incorporating for the rise of China, dude. So it's just, bro, clown world. The reason we cover this, guys, is get yourself out of political money, get yourself into Bitcoin. Anyways, I'm gonna end the news segment with this. This was the big nuke that everyone was waiting for. This was the White House's announcement on the executive order, the infamous executive order that we have been waiting for so long. We're going to cover it. We're going to see what's in it. But first, guys, we always put our sources down below. This is the piece by Greta Suisse and the Bretton Woods. And here is the legalese version of the executive order if you want to read it. But here is, a condensed version. So anyways, let's get to it. Specifically, the executive order calls for measures to protect U.S. consumers, investors, and businesses. Again, when they say that, I hope, it's to, kind of, stifle a lot of these shitcoins, a lot of these Ponzi scams, whatever, but let's see what happens. Protect U.S. and global financial stability and mitigate systemic risk. Again, that's a broad net. What does that mean, right? It could say Bitcoin is a threat to protect U.S. and global financial stability. You don't know, right? Anyways, mitigate the illicit finance and national security risk posed by the illicit use of digital currencies. Again, they're putting in national security with digital currencies. It's a broad net that these people are giving. Promote U.S. leadership in technology and economic competitiveness to reinforce U.S. leadership in the global financial system. I like this. This is a good statement. However, wait to see how this paragraph ends, and you'll get why that is misleading. Promote equitable access to safe and affordable financial services. Usually when they use equitable, they are also talking about the environment as well, right? Support technological advances and ensure responsible development and use of digital assets. Okay, so at the end of the day, it's not that bad, right? Here they even say prioritizing privacy, right? I wonder why they're talking about privacy, right? I'll get to that in a second. They're saying equitable, right? So you know that the environment is put in there. But look what they put on the last paragraph, Phil. Explore a U.S. central bank digital currency by placing urgency on research and development of a potential United States CBDC should issuance be deemed in the national interest. Of course, they're going to do this, okay? The order directs the U.S. government to assess the technological infrastructure and capacity needs for a potential U.S. CBDC in a manner that protects Americans' interests. It does not, okay? It protects the government's interest. The order also encourages the Federal Reserve to continue its research, development, and assessment efforts for a U.S. central bank digital currency, including a development for a plan for a broader U.S. government action in support of their work. The effort prioritizes U.S. participation in a multi-country experimentation, ensures U.S. leadership internationally to promote CBDC development that is consistent with U.S. priorities and democratic values. Democratic money. Remember, Bitcoin is non-democratic. Pay attention to those words. So when they talk about this, promote U.S. leadership in technology, what they really mean is promote central bank digital currencies because that's U.S. leadership, right? Prioritizing privacy, they're telling you that, so they're trying to make you think that these central bank digital currencies are going to have privacy at heart. But by the way that they're architected, it's anything but. So let me kind of speculate how this is going to go. And I've talked to some buddies of mine at Bitcoin Magazine, and this is why I feel this is going to go, Phil. They're going to do these studies. They're going to say proof of work is environmentally damaging. They're going to say in order to the U.S. to maintain its leadership, it needs a central bank digital currency, and Bitcoin is a threat to that. And again, Bitcoin is a non-democratic currency. It's rules without rulers, and they want to promote a democratic currency, which means it's a currency that is manipulated by human beings. And what we've learned over the last 10,000 years is that democratic money sucks. As long as humans are able to manipulate the monetary policy, we've just spent the last hour of this episode showing you what the consequences of that are. Seizing your money, debasing your money, etc., 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 etc. So, again, it was a sigh of relief because there was no regulations issued by the executive order. I think they had a very bad experience last time they tried to sneak this into the infrastructure bill, and they saw how much pushback they got from the community. So it's just setting the tone, and it's telling the rest of the government, hey, listen, this is a path forward. Path forward is central bank digital currencies. And make no mistake, guys, central bank digital currencies are a response to Bitcoin. They are terrified that they're going to lose their monopoly on the creation of money. And if they lose their monopoly on the creation of money, they lose their ability to manipulate people through monetary policy. This is their last show. This is their last go. And I've been telling you guys, I've been hammering it home for a couple months now. You're going to have to pick one day between slightly inconvenient freedom, which is Bitcoin, and slavery money, which are central bank digital currencies, which will allow the government to manipulate and control every aspect of your life. Phil?
Okay, I just wanted to add to your point about equitable money, right? It's not just about the environment. It's also about wealth distribution, because wealth redistribution. Because what I've noticed with all of this ESG crap, it's always about low energy and wealth redistribution. Everybody gets a little, and the people all the way at the top get a whole lot, and they get to control it. So this is that every time I see equitable, I just don't see the rosy picture and the unicorns and everybody dancing happily. Okay? I just see a very small elite getting to enjoy their lives while everybody else is miserable.
Equitable is another word for communism, dude. Equitable
it really is
socialism, dude. That's literally what it stands for.
It's one of those loaded words, you know?
And again, that's what they hide behind, right? You know, it's nuts. Okay, anyways, Phil?
Oh yeah, no, but the other piece to this was that, look, make no mistake, with the CBDCs, this is exactly what they want. Okay? They want nothing more than to implement this type of control, these types of regulations, and they want to be able to watch everything. And they want to be able to do it with less people because, look, it's no surprise, it's no secret that the IRS is like far behind in looking through files. It's no secret that they do not have the manpower. But imagine that everything could be automated and everything could just be done through algorithms and triggers. Hey, you don't need so many people. Now all you really need is a bunch of, maybe a couple of people to go through the lists, which is way easier than having people track down individual cases and do all the casework. Anyways, I'm just saying, this has nothing to do with what's better for people. All of that language about security and doing what's best for the investor, this is nonsense.
It's best for the bureaucrats. This is to ensure their survival, and you are the cost, right?
That's right.
Bitcoin benefits you, and it takes away power away from them, right? Anyways, before I pass it on to Guzman, guys, a little bit of good news, right? By the time they roll this out, and if you believe the Bank of America report that we showed a couple weeks ago, it's going to come out around 2025, 2026, right? That's another halving. That's another Bitcoin halving into that, right? So I don't think they'll be able to catch up. I don't think that, remember, government money, central bank digital currencies, is going to require coercion and money by decree. Versus Bitcoin, it's incentives. That's all it is, right? And governments are never going to be able to replace the incentives that are provided by the Bitcoin network, Don't believe me? Take a look at China. It's estimated that 10% of the hash rate is still located in China. That means that people are willing to go to jail in communist China to mine Bitcoin. Those are some crazy fucking incentives. Guzman?
I also I mostly agree with you guys. The one thing that to me is kind of positive about this is that essentially there's no direction that will be taken, at least not yet, right? So they're trying to essentially go in this, we are going to get educated on this topic kind of thing, right? So I guess essentially what that calls to me and to everyone here should be we should try the same way as we did for the infrastructure bill, just raise our voices, try to essentially put Bitcoin on top of any CBDC bullshit kind of thing. So I think essentially for me, this is kind of a call to action. Say we need to double down our efforts in putting out content around Bitcoin versus shitcoins, or around decentralizations versus centralized CBDCs, because now is kind of their time to kind of be open-minded, or I guess that's what they are saying, right? But I think kind of right now it's a call to action to say, hey, we should be trying to reach out to all of the people that are in power within the government to try to steer this ship where we think it's best that it should go, right? To defend what we think it's right, to defend decentralization, to defend Bitcoin, right? So that to me is kind of a positive, or at least what I can get out of this, right? I think it could have been much worse, for sure. I mean, in the spectrum of really, really bad to decently good, there's kind of in the middle, I would say. There's still some small notes, and at least this is me being just a bit of a fool, but hopefully this will essentially make authorities, government authorities and monetary authorities, come to the realization that embracing Bitcoin is the only way for the US government, or for matter of fact any other government, to essentially sustain leadership in the 21st century.
100%.
So that's kind of my view here. I really hope that these folks here, and we need to essentially teach them on this, and educate them this, Bitcoin, embracing Bitcoin is the only way to remain relevant, to remain leader in the space in the 21st century. But any government, the US, I come from Uruguay, so Uruguay or any other country, embracing this, in my opinion, is the only way.
100%, dude. 100%. I completely agree. But I think that there's a lot of people that work in government that benefit so much from the fiat money printers that I suspect they're going to fight this tooth and nail. Now in the U.S., because that's where I live, so I'm most on top of things here. We have huge efforts by the Coin Center, which is the Bitcoin and shitcoin lobbying arm in DC. Shout out Jerry Brito. And also a Bitcoin only, institute, research center, which also kind of functions as a lobbying arm, called the Bitcoin Policy Institute. Shout out David Zell. And I suspect, right, that this executive order wasn't as bad as it could be because of the tremendous amount of work and effort and pressure that these guys have put in. And as NGU technology keeps going up, guys, the more influence the Bitcoin and shitcoin industry is going to have in the swamp of Washington, D.C., so they can't pull the fast one like they did during the infrastructure bill. Anyways, this is executive order. It's not as bad as it could be, but it's also showing you their game plan, which is this central bank digital currency. We could take them out with that. So anyways, we'll stay on top of it like we always do. But Phil, there was an open source software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. Brought to you by CipherSafe. Check them out. CipherSafe.io, the best place to store your Bitcoin seed. Store your seed in the Cypher Wheel or the all-new Cypher Grid. Both come complete with punch tool. Well, the Cypher Grid comes complete with a punch tool, but both come with a tamper-resistant wire. All right, we've got Zeus version 0.6.0 that was released. It's down below in the show notes. Don't forget to check out our audio-only episodes. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and Anchor.
Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, that was our show. But before we go, I want to give a very, very special shout out to our awesome guest. His name is Guzman Pinto, so you can give him a follow on Twitter. He is a member of Luxor Pool. There's awesome pool, right? Very, very good fees, good stuff with them. And I also want to give a very special shout out to our awesome sponsor, rephard.com. Phil and I wear different hoodies every episode, or we try to at least. They make really cool stuff. You can take advantage of the link down below for 10% off anything off rephard.com. They're going to come out with Bitcoin merch soon. Guys, if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, I'm going to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the plebe perspective and the catastrophic fails from the shitcoin central bankers. Look, they're kind of the same. Definitely consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin. We'll see you tomorrow, guys, for a brand new episode.
To quote our guest, Bitcoin isn't just unconfiscatable money, it's the only unconfiscatable asset.